You
No, I
totally
don't
are.
know.
Come on, I think, I love Sandy Joe's hair.
I do too.
I'm really struggling with my antennae. I obviously have a little practicing to do.
As long as you get the signal.
Yeah, right.
My background is actually the sign I made for the drive-by.
Oh, that's
Oh, that's
awesome.
nice.
I showed that to Tiara while I was upstairs. Oh.
Is Bernie going to be speaking tonight at all?
Bernie may or may not be present throughout our service. Yes. Starring.
Oh, look at him. Oh, I just saw him.
Yeah, it looks like Beth and Carrie both have them.
Yeah.
We've
Double Bernie.
coordinated. We worked on this last night.
I'm dressed up as a lesbian.
Hey, me. And you do a very good job of looking like one.
Thank you.
Your custom is perfect.
Flannel.
Yeah, we're
Flannel.
doing our best flannel.
No, Audrey, I'm dressed up as a lesbian.
Oh,
wait a minute.
I think it's contagious.
I'm just not going to be able to wear this nose the whole time.
You sound like you can barely breathe, Sharon.
Sharon, you look beautiful.
So, what a wonderful beginning to our service tonight to see you all and to hear you all. And a good Shabbos to all. And we are going to begin our mini Shabbat service with the lighting of our Shabbat candles. And here tonight to light our Shabbat candles is Rose Lieber and her family. And what a joy it is to welcome Shabbat with you, Rose, as your bat mitzvah approaches this Shabbat. And we're just delighted to be with you.
Asher Kitchanu B'mitzvotav B'tzivanu L'knir Shel Shabbat.
Amen. And good Shabbos, everyone. Let us welcome Shabbat with the words Lecha Dodi, Shabbat Shalom. And did you notice little Bernie just showed up? Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Penei Shabbat, Nekavla, Lecha Dodi, Likrat Kala, Penei Shabbat, Nekavla, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom u'mevorach. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom u'mevorach. I am getting such a kick out of these slides. And we turn now to the words of the Shema, putting all of our voices together. Ve'ahavatcha al tasir mimenu le'olamim, baruch ata Adonai Ohev Amo Yisrael, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. We thought tonight, even with these wonderful costumes surrounding us, these colorful Zoomicals, and Bernie observing it all, that we would take even tonight some time for silent prayer, for quiet reflection, getting our Purim Shabbos vibe going. So a silent Amidah tonight. Let's say the first 6 words together, that we may open our lips, our hearts for prayer, and then some time to recite the Amidah to just quietly with ourselves. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Turn our thoughts now to those in need of healing, of body, healing of spirit, healing of mood. And I invite you to put names of those you are thinking about tonight in the chat, or just hold their names in your heart, hold your love for them in your heart. And tonight we especially send prayers of healing to Ann Pillow, to Brian Fitzgerald, to Chris Bouteau and the Bouteau family, to Beverly Weinberger, Erwin Lebo, Eliyahu Yona Ben Rivka, Lynn Goldsmith, Jerry Mills, Jerry Kubi, Marion Feldman, Vera Ventura, Bernice Moy, Colleen Berry, Alan Lee, and Chris Lee. Send prayers of healing to Wendy Fuld, Samantha Bader, Tessa Goldlust, Russ Weiss, Michael Slonim, Janet Akmajian Crawford, Carol Caponegro, Paula Kravitz, to Robbie Tovey, and to Sonia Marks, Michelle Perkins, Judy Angel, Jean Borowski, to Andy A., Leah and Patrick Young, Arlene Ponte, and to Jeff Alexander. Thinking tonight of Alan and Joanne Travis, Fiona Sutton, Jeanette DeMarco, Ayana Masla, Marla Weiner. Continued prayers for Nelson Lovins, Jill and Louis Landsberg, Joyce Bean, Kristen Geffen, for Norman and Fran Waxler, Sue Boardman, for Angela Panzone and Linda and Fred Lukasik. Continued prayers for Nancy Alpert, Peter Nichols, for Lester Siegel, Ed Snow, and Emma Watkins. For Izzy Morse, for the Mortel family, for Janice Weisenfeld, Joel Seiner, for Rosalind Hoffman, Joel Meeks, and Judy Planchin. Prayers for Bernice Hutzler-Stein, for Debbie Gilman, for Neil Daniels Midman, and for Abraham Lyon. For Ron and Patty Shepard, for Mary Jane Gendra, for Jennifer Chase, Ellen Lee, Judy Donaldson, for Isaac Altman Sagan, for Rabbi David Nelson, for Jeff Bray, and for Arlene Edelson. Continued prayers for Vicki Oman, for Melissa Martin and her daughter Cassie, for Ken Blumberg, and for Jimmy Krasnow. For Asher Guy Ben Chava Verhersh Shmuel, for the Medeiros Rockenmacher family, for Justin and Jen Alexander. Continued prayers for Gladys Schuker, for Claude Lieber, for Nancy Lazaro Lieber, for Bob Friedman, Kathy Nath, and for Mason Lee. Mi sheberach avoteinu mikor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha leavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say And may we send that peace, that prayer for wholeness, for healing across our entire planet. May the one who makes peace up in the heavens help us to make peace here for all who dwell on earth. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru amen. And one more time, Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei
we turn our thoughts to those whose presence we feel, but whose life here on earth has ended. If you are remembering somebody whose name you would like to share into our community, I invite you to use the chat function of the technology you are using to join us, to add that person's name, letting us know who is being felt in your heart. This week, our community lost two. Matt Lunan, the father of Meryl Lunan, and Cheryl Ruxin, the mother of Bob Ruxin. We are standing in memory on the yard sites of Malcolm Weber, Arthur Kling, Rosa Gelder, Jack Nath, Herman Kalman, Chip Gold, Mary O'Connor, Pearl Janowitz, and Evelyn Taven. And we are in the year of memory for Billy Mortel, Helen Krancer, Myra Perez, Ida Burshad, Jim Medford, Jerry Sachs, Shirley Siegel, and Jack Langerman. For all of those named, for all those we hold in our hearts, for all our country and world have lost in this pandemic, we offer these words of blessing, sanctifying life together in community with the words of Mourner's Kaddish. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit, as is your custom. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'gala uv'izman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam u'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudasha brichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shamaya v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May the one who makes peace in the heavens make peace for us, for all Israel, and all who dwell on earth, to which we all add our voice. Amen.
So we thought we would sing one Purim song before we transition to our text study. And this is a parody of a parody written by Joan Atlas. The words, once there was a wicked, wicked man. Once there was a very bad disease, and COVID was its name. Oh, so everyone was stuck inside, which really was a shame. Oh, so today we'll sing a song on Zoom. So today we'll sing a song on Zoom. So today we'll sing a song on Zoom and nash some hum and tashen. But Esther came up with a plan to strike that COVID down. town. Oh, she told the king to raise his hand and send it out of town. Oh, today we'll sing a song on Zoom. So today we'll sing a song on Zoom. So today we'll sing a song on Zoom and nash some hum. I can't see the words. And then the children dance and sing and play. Oh, and all because Queen Esther had made COVID go away. Oh, today we'll sing a song on Zoom. Oh, today we'll sing a song on Zoom. So today we'll sing a song on Zoom and nash some hum in Tashen. Woo!
So we are celebrating Purim tonight in community. It's not just how Sharon shows up most Friday nights, believe it or not. And there are many traditional ways that a Jew, a person who wants to acknowledge this holiday, might celebrate Purim together. And the question is, in part, what are we celebrating when we celebrate together? So I just want to get through some tech things with you first. I'm going to ask people to participate throughout our tech study today. Mittens, welcome. This study is called Hero ? And it's based by Rabbi Ayalon Eliach. And I found it this year to be very, very interesting and comforting. If you are looking to hear the story of Purim in its full form, tomorrow at 4, we invite you to Havdalah and to our amazing storyteller, Cindy Rivka Marshall, a professional storyteller who will do justice to the drama and the intrigue and all of the wonderful things. But to prepare us as a community to hear, yes, this is our second Zoom Purim in a row, to prepare us as a community to hear those words tomorrow, to hear Cindy tomorrow. I always find if we read the text, we do a little digging beforehand together, we have the opportunity to listen in a different way. And so we give Sandy Joe the award for most like Bernie Mittens. We give Sharon the Clown Award for the year. We give antenna to Amy. And we had some masks on Ellie that I see have disappeared, but which were quite spectacular. And we want to thank you all. We've got some hats. I've got a couple of New Yorkers showing their exile here. So, you know, we are so delighted to be having a chance to really look at this text that is the basis of our celebration together. I will ask you to participate throughout this evening's text study. So I'm going to ask you to practice raising your hand. This is a fun little thing I'm learning in technology on Zoom. Audrey just demonstrated it for us. I can't exactly give you directions on how to do it. It's probably under either reactions or the ... And this is how I will know that you want to participate. I see Joseph popped up. I see Rim popped up. And then you're going to practice. Andre popped up. Then you're going to, hi, good to see you. Happy Purim. Then you're going to practice putting down your hand, because this is equally as important and as confusing to me in Zoom technology, I will admit. So we're gonna practice this. Sue, good to see you. I see you popping up and popping down. I see my in-laws. It's great to be all with you. If anybody just feels like at this point they cannot make their raise hand technology work, you can't find it, I invite you to unmute yourself right now and just like meep into the Zoom room so that we know you need a little bit of help and we'll figure it out. Sandy Joe, your hand is up. Here's the question. Can you put your hand down? She did it. Hooray for Sandy. And this is, by the way, should you hear the name you don't want to hear, Ellie, that's perfect. Perfection. You are going to, shout, boo, do whatever it is you need to do. Some of you have not raised your hand yet, but you have also not unmuted and meeped. So I'm going to assume that you are.
We still don't know how to do. We still can't figure it out. Same as like 2 weeks ago, whatever.
If you go,
we haven't fixed it.
For some people, it's under reactions. If you see reactions on the bottom right. For some people, if you click on the 3 little dots next to your names, you can get a raise hand function. It depends a little bit which technology you're on. Also, because I trust you two, but only you two, you can also do something else. Alana got it. She's got her hand up. We're great. And so we are, I think, mostly ready to go. If you are feeling just so unprepared, you should meep now. Up, we've got Andy's throwing a party, and Andy or Judy are throwing a party. You can do that, although it doesn't necessarily bring you to the top of my screen. If you only give me the thumbs up or do all sorts of wonderful things like this. It is so good because what's happening on my screen right now is you're all floating around. So it's chaos, which is kind of its own form of fun for Purim, if you think about it. So what we're gonna do is we are gonna, I'm also gonna invite you in your view, make sure you're in gallery, not speaker view. I mean, Bernie does look good next to me, but I'm not that exciting. So make sure even when we're screen sharing, you can see other members of the community because you're going to want to be hearing from each other during this text study. So give me 2 thumbs up, a wave, anything to let me know we're ready to go. We're ready to go. Good to see you. Charlie, can't have a question already. I didn't ask anything. All right. Dan, are you managing SlideShare for me? Is this what we worked out? I hope. Maybe not.
Yep.
Yes. Oh, awesome. Can we put up the Hamantaschen? So what are we celebrating on Purim? Does anybody think they can do a 30-second version that is not this one, although this one's pretty good, of the Purim story? Anybody think if I put on a timer, you can do it in 30 seconds? Charlie and Paula, you got to put your hand down or I'm going to call on you. It's very dangerous to be related to me and leave your hand up. These are apricot, your fave. All right, I'm going to see if I can do it. Who's got a timer? 30 seconds. Ready? Oh, Andy or Judy, you got it?
All right. It would be good if I could see the timer, but I will try to do it. So there is this king who was not very competent, and there is a very, I can't hesitate if I want to make it. There is this.
Up your 30 seconds.
Yes, there is this person, Haman, who was trying to take over. Was very ambitious, and he has a bee in his bonnet over the Jews. So he, as well as trying to take over the place, he's trying to get rid of his rival Mordecai, and he does not know that Mordecai's niece is Jewish and is the wife. So she uses her wiles to get the king to turn the tables. And then they kill a bunch of people and they take over.
Hey, with 4 seconds left, let's give a round of applause to Andy. Very well done, Andy. Performs well under pressure. We can write Andy Oram dash performs well under pressure. Very well done. So Andy is telling what is a traditional rabbinic view of the Purim story, which is who's the good guys? Who are the good guys in Purim? Somebody raise their hand and tell me who's the good guys in Purim. Ellie, tell me who the good guys are.
Esther, Mordecai, and the king.
Esther, Mordecai, you got a little bit of a pause. Maybe the king's good. Maybe the king's not so good in there, you think?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I like it. All right, so Ellie is telling you the rabbinic world view. The rabbis lived from about the year 200 to 600, and they believed that Esther, good guy, hero, Mordecai, good guy, hero, king, at least pulls it out in the end, right? And Haman, definitely the bad guy, right? Haman's like, come on, guys, I said it. Come on, Haman, you got to do a visual. There you go. All right. So that's the rabbinic view, right? Is that the story? If you were raised with a Purim story, was that the Purim story you were raised with?
I think Vashti is also a good guy.
All right, Hi, nice. So Hi is adding that there is a good guy or good person, good guy, Vashti, and I invite you all to buy the book Queen Vashti's Comfy Pants. It's the best new Purim story ever, and that has nothing to do with my bias towards comfortable pants, I promise you. But buy the Queen Vashti's Comfy Pants and send it to somebody you love. It's a great story. Ellie's backing me up on this. Totally awesome, right, Ellie? All right, so Vashti, at least let's complicate that Hi a little bit. Can I ask you to unmute?
We can.
All right. Do you think Vashti is good according to the ancient worldview, or do you think Vashti is good according to the modern worldview?
Well, she's definitely good according to the modern worldview.
Mm-hmm.
I think she would be considered to be good by some in the ancient world, and she'd be considered to be insolent, by others. So she's more of a groundbreaker,
Perfectly said, Hi. So she's a groundbreaker in the story. A king tells her to come and dance. She refuses. Whether she is recognized as good or not, left in the story a little bit unclear. So we can put her sort of in the same category. If we're categorizing people in this story, are they the hero or are they the anti-hero? She's going to fall sort of somewhere in between, maybe along the lines of the king, depending on how you read the story. And how do we celebrate Purim? And Dan, we're going to put up the next slide if we can. How do we traditionally celebrate Purim? There are 4. Yeah, she is shuffled off the stage quickly. That is true. There are 4. Ellie, are you raising your hand? How do we celebrate Purim? Tell me.
Hamantashen.
Hamantashen. And do you know what you traditionally put Hamantashen in? It's kind of a hard question. Are you supposed to bake yourself Hamantashen? Do you know?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I agree with any question that is answered with me baking myself cookies. So yes, you are supposed to bake yourself Hamantashen. You are also supposed to send gifts to friends. So you're supposed to go over to your neighbor and deliver something called Mishloach Manot. And it's a basket. It's got to have at least 2 kinds of food in it. Usually one of them is the Hamantashen, especially if you like your neighbor, it's the Hamantashen. If you don't like your neighbor, it might be the poppy seed Hamantashen, but that's a debate for a different day. I know some of you, I just lost you entirely on whether the poppy seed is the good or the bad Hamantashen, but you deliver Mishloach Manot, gifts with food to your neighbors. You give Matanot le'evyonim, you give gifts of tzedakah to those who are in need. And this year, our community participated in many tzedakah activities. You lishmoa Megillah, you listen to the Megillah. In some ways, we're fulfilling that right now. In some ways, we'll fulfill that tomorrow. And you participate in a seudah, a festive feast. I guess festive and feast If it's not festive, is it a feast, right? I don't know, but you go for a big feast, and you go for almost exactly the kind of feast that we see at the very beginning of the book of Esther. And that's funny to me, because why would we start out, why would we celebrate the holiday the way the king celebrates himself? So we're going to turn to our next slide. Notice Bernie is participating in our text study throughout. He is waiting for you to send him the good kind of Hamantashen, and he is not going to tell you what the good kind is. He's just going to sit there waiting for you to guess at it. All right. So in Megillah 7b in the Talmud, did somebody unmute and say something?
Rava said a person is obligated to become intoxicated with wine on Purim until one does not know how to distinguish between cursed is Haman and blessed is Mordecai.
Okay, so is anybody familiar with this teaching? Has anybody heard this before when they've heard about Purim? Yeah, you've heard that there's this idea that Purim is supposed to be a wicked party, right? And in fact, it's supposed to be such a wicked party that Bernie shows up in synagogue, and people behave in all sorts of ways that they are not supposed to behave the rest of the year. So the rest of the year, if I'm speaking in synagogue and you all just start booing, I'm not super delighted with this outcome, right? But this night, I'm delighted. If you all show up in costume on any other Friday night, I might be confused. Tonight, I think it's wonderful. We literally turn our world topsy-turvy. And there is this teaching in the Talmud that says one of the ways that, or what we understand, one of the ways the world is turned topsy-turvy is that you're supposed to drink so much wine, you can't tell the difference between blessed be Mordecai and cursed be Haman. Why do you think that there we go. Thank goodness. We have some people who caught the fact that I said Haman. None of you, only one screen really did it. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Dan Press, thank you. I saw that. You really got in with the thumbs down there. You got the appropriate reaction. All right. Why do you think that is it? It's a teaching by the most frequently cited Talmudic scholar. Why do you think he teaches that? And there are no wrong answers. Why do you think that Rava teaches that you're supposed to drink until you can't tell the difference between one, blessed be Mordecai, and two, cursed be Haman?
Put a screen with 4 images on it, or this one?
Anybody want to raise their hand? I said Haman. I got Hi, at least heard me. Hi's with me, I can tell. Thank you, Hi. Robbie or David or End, whichever of you would love to answer. I'd love to hear from.
It was me.
Okay.
This time. Sporting my Orioles hat, just so everybody knows. I think Purim is about seeing things differently from the way you see them most of the time. You know, sort of like a Mardi Gras or a carnival, things get flipped around, like you said, topsy-turvy. But I think it's also about in that same vein about seeing things fresh. And to not be able to distinguish between the good that we usually think is good and the evil that we usually think is evil is part of that. And I think if you look at the story, Mordecai is not perfectly good. I mean, the massacre at the end of the story is appalling. And Haman may not be as bad as everybody thinks. So I think that it's about a new way of thinking about things.
A new way of thinking about things. We are going to name Rava, the Talmudic scholar, and we're going to take the journey that Rava offers together tonight to understand what does it mean really to look at this story anew, okay? And we're going to see if we can turn our world upside down together in community. So Aaron, we're going to invite you to unmute, and then we're going to go to the text.
Oh, I was just going to say it's because it's the only book of the Bible where God is not mentioned. So obviously God's not paying attention, so we can do whatever we feel like.
Oh, geez. And we're
That's
streaming to the internet live from Temple Shir Tikvah. We want you all to know. Send us your children to educate, please. We are God is not mentioned in this text. And so perhaps, the world is truly your oyster on Purim. Nice, Aaron. All right. We are going to share Esther 1. Anybody want to be my reader for me? Anybody feel like really just reading the Megillah this year to add their voice?
I'll do it.
I'll do it.
Oh, I have so many offers. It's hard to choose who to take up on it, but Roberta is wearing a cowboy hat. So, I mean, no offense to the Mets, Audrey, but we're going to go with the cowboy hat today.
At the end of this period, the king gave a banquet for 7 days in the court of the king's palace garden for all the people who live in the fortress Shushan, high and low alike. There were hangings of white cotton and blue wool, caught up by cords of fine linen and purple wool to silver rods and alabaster columns. And there were couches of gold and silver on a pavement of marble, alabaster, mother of pearl, and mosaics. Royal wine was served in abundance, as befits a king, in golden beakers of varied designs, and the rule for the drinking was no restrictions, for the king had given orders to every palace steward to comply with each man's wishes.
All right. So what do we have here? Who wants to describe the scene for us? Oh, Clownsicle turned upside down. She was so excited by this feast and festivity. Oh dear. I didn't know that was even an option in Zoom. Watch out. Paula or Charlie, what's going on in the book of Esther at the very beginning?
After some period of time, which is not designated, the king is making a big banquet and a very elaborate banquet with a lot of he's decorated the place with all of the finery that's in the castle, and he's telling everybody to drink what you want. He's giving all the food and all the drink that anyone wants without any exception, and he has ordered his servants to do that.
And what does that sound like?
An orgy a little bit.
Okay. Also send us your children for education, Temple Shir Tikvah, here at your finest. You right in, Paula. I liked it.
Kids to educate, they're only grandkids.
Oh, it's not your problem. Great. We have a party beyond parties here that is no restrictions, lavish. Every piece of finery is on display, all of the food, all of the drink, all of it with no limits. This is just putting absolute edges out on what acceptable behavior is going to be, right? And in fact, what does that sound like to you? To me, it sounds like Purim in the modern world. Has anybody here ever been in Jerusalem in the modern day in Purim? It is, or Israel, anywhere in Israel will do. Tel Aviv is its own version of this. It is just It's carnival. It's a huge party, right? But what's really interesting about this party, from the rabbinic perspective, is that across the board, the rabbis hate this party. They think this party is the absolute worst thing you could ever do. And if you were on the guest list, that is the rabbinic equivalent of having been in the Capitol on the day that was sieged, right? Like, this is the worst way that you can be part of civic society, according to the rabbinic understanding, is you were at this party. Despicable. There's like a turn up your nose at this situation. And yet Rava adds something to this party that is really surprising, given how much the rabbis dislike this party. So we're going to put the next screen up and see what Rava says about this party that the rabbis hated so much. Anybody want to be, oh, you know what, Robbie, I'm calling on you since you were the voice, if that's okay. Hopefully we've known each other long enough at this point, I could do this to you.
Sure.
So you're going to go with Rava's teaching at the bottom.
Yep. To comply with each man's wishes. Rava commented on the literal meaning of the verse, which is referring to two men, a man and a man, ish va'ish, and said, the man and man whom they follow indicates that they should do according to the wishes of Mordecai and Haman. The two of them served as butlers at the feast, and they were in charge of distributing the wine. Why is the verse interpreted in this way? Mordecai is called man, as is written. There was a certain Jewish man in Shushan, in the castle, whose name was Mordecai, the son of Yair. And Haman is also called man, as it states, a man who has an adversary and an enemy, this evil Haman.
So Robbie does, yes, very good. I see people are listening, at least when Robbie says the word Haman. We got into it there. Thank you. So Robbie, does this make sense to you? Can you parse this at all, what Rava is saying here?
You're on the spot now.
Yeah, sorry. David, everybody needs somebody whispering in a hat behind him.
It sounds like he's equating Haman and Mordecai.
That's exactly what he's doing, right? That is exactly what he is doing. Give yourself 10 pats on the back for reading rabbinic text. There we go. And a no thank you elbow to David is just fine. No, it's Purim. We can't tell. But what he's saying is that at this party, this condemned party where everybody is drinking beyond what they are even capable of holding, who was walking around serving the wine? Haman and Mordecai. Huh? Why was Mordecai walking around serving the wine according to Rava is the question we have to ask ourselves. That makes no sense, right? He's creating exactly what Robbie described, an equivalency between those two and the role they play. Lynn, I see a question.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about sometimes that Talmudic stuff is really opaque and hard to figure out. And I was wondering if the reason, I mean, the whole party thing is pretty disgusting, particularly the way Vashti gets treated. And I'm sure the rabbis couldn't care less about her. But maybe they didn't like that Mordecai was hanging around in a kind of assimilationist way with the Persians and thought that he should be doing more to keep the Jewish people living according to their commandments as opposed to the way the Persians were living. And
Okay.
plus they were always afraid there would be mixing of men and women and there would be homosexuality. Oh my God, all these awful things that the rabbis didn't like.
Right, dancing at a wedding, right?
Right.
Good. So, so one option here is that they have that Rava has a problem with Mordecai based on some way his participation in the larger Persian society. Robbie or David? David?
I think it's because of my hat. I wonder whether the question is, whose Kool-Aid are you drinking? In other words, you know, it doesn't matter whose Kool-Aid you drink. If you drink too much of it, you may become blinded. Whether it's Donald Trump's Kool-Aid or President Biden's.
Okay, good. And David, you just got us to where we're going to end as well. Good. So this screen here, watch out for these two on a Friday night. Good. So maybe the question is, who's your leader, right? Who's following you, and how willing are you to follow them, sort of no matter what restrictions that you expect them to follow, they stop following, right? That could be part of what the rabbis are really struggling, or Rava. It's actually, just to clarify, it's not the rabbis writ large, it's Rava, who really has a problem with Mordechai. The rest of them, this is not their issue, okay? Paula or Charlie?
It seems to me that the story reflects the two sides of all of us. And the drinking is what allows that to come out, because we lose control. It seems to me also that the only true, in some ways, the only true hero of the story is Esther.
Okay, good. So in some ways you're describing Haman and Mordechai as those two angels. There you go. Thank you. You're all still here. Just checking. As those two angels who sit on your shoulder in the rabbinic imagining, one whispering good in your ear and one whispering other in your ear, and you've got both sides sort of built into your system there, Charlie, right? You've got the inner angel and the inner demon telling you might need to go both ways. Good. We're going to move on just for the sake of time, and I'm going to show you how much Rava really is struggling with Mordechai. And we're going to put up this next slide. So I'm not going to read you all of this, although this information, you can get it from us if you want it after. But throughout the Megillah in different places, or throughout the Talmud in different places, Rava just keeps on harping on Mordechai is not who you think he is. He comes back to it over and over again, and often in sort of ways that are just genuinely surprising. So on page 13a, he says that when Mordechai was described as going into exile from Jerusalem, pretty much the worst thing that could happen to you religiously is you got to live in Jerusalem and then you're sent out of Jerusalem in the exile. He says, actually, Mordechai chose himself to leave Jerusalem. He exiled himself from Jerusalem. That's not something you say about a person you like, by the way. That is a really, really rude thing to say. He also says, and this is a long and complicated text, but essentially he says that it would have been better if Mordechai had never been born. So, not bad enough that he exiled himself out of Jerusalem, but even worse, all the more so, it would be better if he had never been born. So when somebody is saying things like this, I think it's a sign. Just call me crazy. They don't like the guy, right? Like, that's just my sense of what his take on Mordechai is. And the question is, what could he have done that would be so terrible that he would merit this level of vitriol, this level of fear and hatred, better that he had never been born? And so we're going to go to the next slide. There are many Talmudic texts that can lead us here, but I think this one is the most telling in some ways. In Esther 2, when the king's order and edict was proclaimed, when girls assemble in front of Shushan, right? So we all know this story. The king is looking for a new wife, and he holds a beauty pageant, and Esther wins. Esther did not reveal her people or her kindred, for Mordechai had told her not to reveal it. And then 10 verses later, she's now living in the palace. Esther still did not reveal her kindred or her people as Mordecai had instructed her to. So it seems that Mordecai has this idea that Esther's identity as an Israelite, as a Jewish person, has to be hidden, and that it poses some risk to her, or some risk to something he wants to achieve. And yet, in chapter 3 in the Megillah, when Haman is walking around saying everybody should, yeah, thank you, Clownsicle, I got one. Clownsicle's listening here. I don't want to say the rest of you have fallen down on the game, but when Haman is walking around, thank you. Oh, okay. Whew. When Haman is walking around telling everybody that they, now I'm just messing with your arms at this point, telling everybody that they need to bow down. When they spoke to him day after day, he would not listen. He told Haman, in order to see whether Mordecai's resolve would prevail, for he had explained, why can't he bow down, that he was a Jew. Okay, so Mordecai, it seems to me, Rabbah has this problem with Mordecai. It's a little bit unclear what it is, but it's clear that it's there, right? He is really angry at Mordecai, or he's really scared about Mordecai, or he's really passionate about Mordecai. There's a lot there between Rabbah and Mordecai. And why is it? I think that Rabbah is saying, Rabbah, remember, said two things about wine at the beginning. He said, drink so much that you can't tell the difference between the good guy and the bad guy. He also said, if you were looking at my slides very carefully, when I drink a little bit of wine, I get a little bit of wisdom. Okay, now take away whether that's a good idea or not. Rabbah actually doesn't seem to be saying that wine is inherently bad. He doesn't seem to be offering the drink wine, get drunk understanding of wine. He seems to be saying that there's something about wine that can be useful and something about wine that can be extremely dangerous. And he seems to be also intent on making the case that we inspect the actions of every single player in the Purim story with the same questions of whether they are ethical, whether they are right, whether they are serving a universal or some hidden purpose, some individual purpose. He seems to be asking or saying that we have to ask that of every single person in our Purim story, even Mordecai, our obvious hero. And in this divided world, in this world where we are as polarized as we have ever been, where another person's hero is our absolute enemy and our hero is theirs, I think that this is timeless and timely wisdom to us, to question our assumptions and to ask what we believe and why we believe it, and then to ask them to live up to the values that we hold as sacred. So with that, we thank our Megillah readers and our speakers and all of us together, and we turn to tomorrow hearing this story told to Cindy Rivka Marshall's telling of it, with the invitation to hear it anew for ourselves. Are there any questions before we end this Megillah experience, this totally text Megillah experience we have shared together? Andre, I see your hand.
I just think that and I might be saying the name wrong, but I think what Rabbah is saying is that he doesn't like how Mordecai through Mordecai didn't have to say why he couldn't bow down. And he didn't have to put other people in danger just because of it.
So, Andre, that is exactly, we didn't get through all the Talmud arguments tonight. We just stuck with mostly the Megillah itself. But in the Talmud, that is exactly Rava's point, is he actually endangers the entire community. And there's a question about whether he does so in a way that is according to Jewish law, or whether he breaks Jewish law and endangers those people. And Rava is the person who believes he's breaking law and endangering the community. And that seems to be why he comes out so strong against him. So you are a Talmud scholar and intuited one of the Talmudic arguments right there. Audrey.
So I just want to say that having Bernie on the bottom of that last screen was very disturbing, because he was going to get killed along with all of the other Jews.
So tell me more about that. I'll tell you why I thought Bernie should be there, but tell me more about that.
Well, it was, I mean, I think I'm going to say my personal belief, okay? I think Bernie is a good Mordecai in a way, because he can be very good and lead things to a good conclusion, and he can be not so good. I will restrain myself. He can be not so good and cause problems where instead of creating the solutions.
Interesting. So that's an interesting interpretation of Bernie on that one. I was thinking of Bernie, and boy, now we're just streaming our politics onto the website there. So we are on fire tonight. I was thinking of that interpretation of what it meant that he was sitting at the Capitol in that position, and how differently this physical position was interpreted by the different communities who saw him and what he represents. So he became our not only our Mordechai, but also our Rava, to say, you know, who are these leaders and what is my relationship to them? And then to have the meta conversation about, well, and which communities are picking him up and using this position for their own agenda. And then Charlie and Paula.
Just a technical question about tomorrow. You talked about 4 o'clock. On the calendar and on the notice that we got in the mail, it says 5 o'clock starts programming.
I don't know if you know this about me. I am terrible at calendaring. How many people here know this about me? Well, now you all do. Okay. Could be. When my calendar beeps tomorrow, I'll know it's the time for the Purim party. Is it 5?
5.
It's 5.
5 o'clock.
Definitely do. And Beth is never wrong about a time. She knows everything. So to tomorrow, do not come at 4. Don't do it. You're going to be by yourself. Come at 5 wearing a beret with some mittens and anything else that you want to hear this story anew. Final questions, and if not, we can wish each other a Shabbat Shalom and a Chag Purim Sameach, a happy Purim, and hopefully an opportunity to learn and listen and grow together. And it looks to me like Beth might have an announcement or two. No. Oh, I was misjudging Beth's face. That doesn't happen that much, but she is changing the color of her beret. So